Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, wherever you are on the planet. My name is Scott Schertzen, alongside Mr. Obie Spencer, and this is the Sports Den. Welcome to Spanglish Sports World Network on Zingo TV channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app on the app stores of iOS and Android. When you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment because both apps are free, so you cannot beat the price. By the way, as a reminder, Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. So basically, if you have anything that resembles modern day technology, you can get Zingo. So, all right, here we go. We got a bunch of stuff we're going to cover today. We're going to talk some NFL because boy, has there been a lot that's happened in that arena. We got World Series Game 6, maybe talk a little hockey, a little basketball tonight. Also maybe sneak in a little MLS in there because I want to be able to cover some stuff in that arena. But before I get into all that, let's focus on what's important. Obie, how you doing?
Great. And speaking of what's important, I apologize to everyone for the next month. This is going to get hairier and hairier. We're in No Shave November or Movember or Mustache-vember, whatever you call it. Yeah, so we're going to remember focusing on men's health. And by men's health, I particularly mean those of us with a prostate. Prostate cancer is pretty bad. If you got Steve Jobs, it can get any one of us. So get yourself checked out. I'm going to bum you all out every episode this month as my hair gets bigger, but that's what this month is about. Otherwise, I am great. I'm fantastic.
I'm interested to see the progress on this because when is the last time you actually, forgetting cleanup here, when's the last time you actually shaved that?
You mean off?
Well, no, not off, but I mean, basically, you do touch-ups, obviously, day in and day out. When's the last time you did a touch-up?
The last time I did a touch-up was probably... I think it was Saturday, but it may have been Sunday morning before we did our NFL Insiders. But
got it. Yeah, I'm starting to see a little bit underneath here. So
already.
All right. So basically,
it's gonna get.
Oh, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to take your picture. I'm going to airbrush a little bit of ZZ Top in there. Yeah, I'm going to have some fun. Oh yeah, I'm going to do that. Basically, sometime today or tomorrow. All right.
Excellent.
Yes. Anyway, so basically we're going to continue this right now. Like I said, we got a bunch of stuff we're going to talk about. Starting, I think, in the NFL. We had some surprises. We had some shockers. We had some disappointments. Part of this is probably my own fault because I just finished talking about how awesome Derrick Henry was and how he was running away. And now he's basically not running for the rest of the year. His injury has ironically paved the way for Adrian Peterson to kind of come out of retirement, who I think was a really good pickup. But start there, pick things up. Without Derrick Henry, what do you think they can do?
I don't know, and I mean that in the truest way. Like Derrick Henry was over 40% of that offense, and any other running back, if he went down, I'd be like, yeah, next man up. You can do this. With that attitude, I got to feel good about him. Brown has really been picking up his game. The last few weeks, he's been spectacular. So Tannehill's kind of back into like that kind of mode. So they may be good enough to make the playoffs with Peterson and whoever else that they're going to use. To me, I think we mentioned it yesterday when you and I were chatting on the phone about how the thing is Peterson is the same type of back as Henry, just older, a lot older in football terms. But why didn't the team have a guy on the bench ready to step up for this? Most other teams, you want some sort of backup quarterback because that's what your team's around. This is a team that needed a backup running back and didn't seem to have one, especially when Ingram was obviously on the trading block because he went away, and got picked up by New Orleans last week. So there was an opportunity there to get somebody to back him up. They didn't, and now they're picking on an old man. I do not know if he can do it, but I don't know that he can't do it because running backs are supposed to be interchangeable in the NFL. That's what I keep arguing with you when we talk about the Giants and why picking Barkley so early was so bad. So
like I said, I don't disagree on that one, but
that
one you and I think may agree on.
Yeah, I shouldn't say argue with you. I just yell like Gettleman about. It's really where I should be with that. But
we can talk about that for a week and a half.
If I'm going to stand by that, I'm going to say they're going to still do okay. But boy, Derrick Henry is different than every other running back in the NFL since Adrian Peterson's prime.
Here's what's interesting, though. Right now, the Titans are 6-2, and they have a 3-game lead on second place calls. Basically, the Jaguars, the Titans, they're out of it. So, from a division standpoint, their only arguable competition right now is a 3-5 team that they have beaten twice this year. So, they have already got the difference maker as far as the tiebreaker goes. That right there, I think, gives them a big advantage to get back into the playoffs because Henry has, in a lot of ways, already paved the way to lock down a postseason berth. Again, a lot can happen. But even though they lost him, they have one of the best records in the NFL right now and have a 3-game lead, like I said, in the AFC South. That's huge for 8 weeks in. 9 games left in the season. I understand that. But you've paved the way. You've done enough right that you can lose something like this, someone like Derrick Henry, and still get back into the postseason again just by doing everything right previously. Now, what that means going forward against the Raiders, the Bills, I'll even throw that out there. I'm still sticking with the Chiefs. I don't think they're done yet, even though all the doom and gloom is saying that they're done, that Mahomes is, cannot be trusted. I've seen all that. But right now, as far as the Titans go, I think they still get back into the postseason no matter what happens with everything with Derrick Henry. They've just done enough right.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is they do have Jacksonville on their schedule at least one more time.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't hurt. Like you said, their division's kind of weak, and they've already beaten the best team in their division twice. So that it's Houston, that's the other team. They got a chance.
They got 3 games between 1 game against the Jaguars and 2 games against Houston. So that's 3 games that are winnable right there.
And their division games. So
2 out of the 3 are at home too.
So I mean, I like that their chances of making the playoffs. I think the real question is not can they win the Super Bowl, because as we said a million times, and one of the things I hope we get to talk about, some of those teams are primed to do it, is you can go on a run towards the end of the season if you make the playoffs and run away with it and take the Super Bowl, a la the Giants a couple of times. You can do that. It's not impossible. It's not unheard of. It feels almost a regular thing to happen. So if they can get to the playoffs, can they win it? Of course they can. But they went from a team I'd be like, hey, these guys can win it, to all right, I can't imagine myself picking them to win it come playoff time. We'll see if they've changed my mind at that point when we see what the running back situation looks like. And if they're doing it by committee, that's fine too. If they can do it by committee, and maybe Adrian Peterson is going to do the short runs and the hard runs, and some of these other guys they have are going to come in and catch the ball in the backfield more now, and maybe add some screen plays to the game, and maybe Julio Jones comes in and picks it up a little bit. There's options for them. They are still in a good place, like you said. They just have to change who they are, and they have 8 weeks to do it, so it's not impossible.
Yeah, I mean, if they go, like, say, even 4-5 the rest of the way, that would be enough to give them a 10-7 record. That would get them in the playoffs, I think.
Especially if they get the 3 wins against the division rivals, right? Yeah. Boom.
And also they're playing the 49ers and the Dolphins as well. Both of those at home, I should add as well. So the schedule is really pretty soft. They got the Patriots coming up, the Steelers, the Saints, who are a little bit in flux right now because lost to Jameis Winston. Next week, they're playing in LA against the Rams. That's going to be a different matchup entirely. But that's a team, but the Titans are a team that can go 4-5 and easily win this division, because that's going to force the Colts to have to go, 4-5, so 10, 11. Yeah, they'd have to go like 8-3 in order to overtake that.
Yeah.
So the Colts can't do that. So awesome. So that's number 1. Number 2 that I wanted to go into absolutely right now, huge amount of respect and a huge amount of diss to the Jets and the Bengals respectively. Nobody, myself included, and I went on record as saying that basically the Jets are going to get killed, and I am sitting here eating complete crow. They did a phenomenal job at home. They overcame 2 interceptions, an early game deficit, and by God, they beat one of the better teams in the AFC at home in front of their crowd. And that's very impressive. Huge amounts of respect there.
I think the Jets deserve all the respect in the world for that. And it does put question mark on how we're going to view the Bengals. Now, unfortunately, I didn't watch the game. Anyone knows me knows I didn't watch any real football until last night.
You had an event that day anyway, so.
Yeah, but So I don't know what the Bengals look like in that choke, but it's obviously a choke, and it was obviously a comeback choke. And so what happened in the offense couldn't keep enough foot on the gas. But that's going to matter when they reach the playoffs, presuming they still get to the playoffs against teams like the Ravens, against teams like if they make it somehow, the Chiefs, against teams like the Bills that have a high-power offense. If the Patriots make it, that's a team that you're going to feel that could be out-coached against. So there's a lot. I think that raised a lot of questions for the Bengals that now they're going to be forced to answer, and they're going to be answering all season. I think you hear a lot of people don't have faith in Arizona, and they're going to not have faith in the Bengals, and they're going to both those teams are going to be on the show it to me before I believe it sort of thing. And because they both of them this weekend didn't show it to us when they had to.
Yeah. And I think that's the big question here. Like I said, they had a prime opportunity to be able to maintain complete control of the AFC North, and they blew it. Now the Ravens are basically in first place. Now they're half a game behind. It was a prime opportunity, and they lost. Now, interesting thing about this, the Jets, they're 2-1 at home. They're 0-4 on the road, let's go into that road. But they're 2-1 at home, which actually is the second best record in the division at home.
Look, the Jets right now, every time I do see them, I'm like, they're losing, but they're not as bad as they look.
Yeah.
Things get out of hand for them, and they can't come back, although they did differently this week against the Bengals. As many people have pointed out along the way, they have a defense that is good, seems well coached, but a lot of their coaching staff are rookies. Their quarterbacks are rookie. Even the fact that they found a way to win with White is a reflection of the youth in their coaching staff. They coach differently with White. Well, why did you coach differently with White? You shouldn't be coaching differently. That's the game plan. That's what your team can do. Do that with whoever's at your quarterback position. But the Jets are all learning together. So every loss, hopefully, is an opportunity for Saleh and that staff to get together and say, this is what we're going to do. This is where we're going to go. They're going to get a great defensive edge rusher in the draft because there's a bunch of them in the draft this year. That's what this draft is going to be about. What we're going to hear about is all the edge rushers in the draft. So the Jets are going to get one. It's going to put them immediately in position to put more pressure on Mac Jones, more pressure on Allen next year, and they're going to build a little bit. So I think that the Jets are in a nice spot for a 2-3 year thing. We'll see what Zach Wilson turns out to be. You got this other guy, White, who might push him, but hey, everybody's favorite player is the backup quarterback. And we'll see where the Jets go. It felt like a game to build upon, not just for this year, but for next year as well.
Yeah. Now, let's just cover one more just to basically get this going. Maybe we'll switch into baseball at this point. The other New York area team, New York area team, has once again found a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, as is the Giants want, having the literal worst record in the NFL since the 2017 season moving forward. They had a prime opportunity to win last night. They were in the lead late. They had an interception that was overturned by a completely irrelevant false start call that had nothing whatsoever to do with that interception. When the game was tied at 17, they would have gotten the ball back decently, borderline field goal territory. Late in the game, they had a chance to take the lead. They blew it. They lost. This is what it's like to be a Giants fan. Just enough hope to believe they're going to pull a win out. And then what do? They pull that hope and toss it away. And again, it's another loss. They're 2-6. As long as this happens, in your opinion, how much longer does Gettleman have the job as GM?
What usually seems to happen in the NFL is they hire a coach and they hire a GM together. Team doesn't do good, they fire some assistant coaches. The team continues to do poorly, they hire the head coach. The GM gets to hire that next head coach. And if they continue to do poorly after that, then they go, oh, wait a second. It's the guy who's picking the players, not the guy who's coaching the players. Let's get rid of him. And Gettleman's at that point. There's been a lot of questionable players picked in the draft. I know we We've had many conversations.
You and I disagree about whether or not basically Haskins might have been the better pick. I
Right.
still kind of stand by that because I think he would have done better in the system.
It's irrelevant whether you're right or I'm right because
you can't pick
the guy
that.
they did pick is just They picked a flashy running back. He can't stay on the field, and when running backs can't stay on the field, they don't learn to stay on the field because they carry the ball and they get hit harder and more often than other players seem to. You know, they have a much shorter shelf life than most other players do who are on the offense who are good. So we're not. It looks like a problem. They can't even count trading OBJ away, who has crashed and burned with Cleveland, as a win. Like they can't even turn that into a win when you look at it. I mean, the amount of money it cost them to keep him before trading him away means that even trading him away wasn't a win.
Yeah.
But then the flip side is, let's look. I mean, Slayton, not bad. Tony, not bad. Daniel Jones
is out. But I mean, the Galladay.
There's been some other moves that look good, some other draft picks, but the big important moves have all been bombs. Mm-hmm. The three big names on his resume are signing and getting rid of OBJ. That was ugly. Drafting Jones over Haskins, and if he was really the guy he wanted, maybe he should have picked him later. And then picking Barkley, which a lot of people liked, but everyone said, "Why are you picking a running back that early?" It doesn't work out. Look, Elliott's the one that worked out, and he's not even the best running back in the league. Yeah, there was a few years ago where they picked a lot of running backs early. Elliott kind of worked, but he wasn't the best. He's not the best running back in the league. He's a better than average running back, and even the Cowboys are now using him by committee in order to get the most out of him. So,
and they're working in tandem with Dak very well there.
Yeah,
that tandem does not exist with the Giants. And in this case here, Gettleman, when he signed Daniel Jones, said this is a 3-year game plan. You're going to see if I'm right in 3 years. Right now, this is his third year in. He has a 10-24 record. This year, he has 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 2 fumbles lost. So basically, his touchdown to turnover ratio is exactly even right there. And he's got, like I said, a 2-6 record this year. And it's, again, as a Giants fan, since literally Scott Brunner was quarterback, who, by the way, was the guy that replaced Phil Simms when he was injured early in Phil Simms' career, to give you an idea, how far back I go. This is the most depressed I have ever been as a Giants fan, because there is
I think you should be, because there's no knight in shining armor coming in the draft next year at quarterback. That doesn't mean, by the way, let's be honest, that there's some guy who's going to go in the 4th round that the Giants are going to take a stab at, or some other team's going to take a pick at. That isn't going to be the best quarterback in the class and the only guy in the class who ends up being a true NFL quarterback. I mean, this year feels like Dak's here with Goff and Wentz. There are going to be some guys who are probably going to end up going 1 and 2, because some teams are going to force their way up for the trades and pick some quarterbacks at 1 and 2. And then there's going to be a guy who goes in the 3rd or 4th round like Dak, who's going to be the guy who doesn't have the pressure, ends up in a situation where they can be taught to play quarterback well. He's not on a bad team, and he's going to be the best guy in who gets picked. Maybe the Giants get lucky and get that guy. Otherwise, there is nobody coming in to save them. But I know you said this is the last team you wanted to talk about, but there is one team I would like to talk about.
If you want, it's okay.
4-3, 3-0 in their last 3. Are we buying into the Pittsburgh Steelers maybe turning things around?
I would say give it a little more time, maybe one more game before I go in that route. They've had a turnaround. They've impressed. They are now the second best, the second worst team in the AFC North. Because of the Bengals loss, they're now a half a game out. So there is a good turnaround there, but it's a little too early for me to say yes, they are turning this around and they've righted the ship at this point. Their schedule right now upcoming is relatively easy for the most part there. Bears, Lions, Chargers, Bengals, which again were in flux, Ravens, Vikings, Titans. It's mostly in division stuff, but it's beatable games. But I don't know if it's beatable enough that they can get into the playoffs. They might have done themselves a little bit too deep of a hole at this point, maybe, to basically get into. I think they're not going to be able to get the wild card. I don't think, but I think they've got a shot at the division. But I'm going to give me a game or two before I sell out on that one.
Okay. Right now, the Steelers are the team I'm watching. They have an incredible coach who just seems to get the best out of that team, even when the team loses its best players. They have had this little streak. They got 2 easy games in a row. That's get them to 6-3. I mean, if I told you a team is 6-3, you would ignore their where they started. 6-3 would be pretty much second place in any division right now, if not first. So that's where they can be. Then they're going to lose. They could lose 1 or 2 games, and then the next 2 after that, I think, were pretty significantly difficult teams. And then they'll be in a position to maybe they're the team that goes on that run. They have the savvy, if you will, to go on that run with the old quarterback and the wise coach. So
here's the thing, they lost to the Packers on the road, but then they beat the Broncos at home. The Broncos are in flux. They beat the Steelers at home by 3, and the Steelers are absolutely in flux right now. That is a team in disarray at the moment. And they beat the Browns on the road, granted some level of respect, but the Browns were going to be like an 11-6 team anyway. So it's not like they defeated a powerhouse. It's not like they took down the Packers. They took down the Bills or the Raiders. They lost all 3 of those games early in the season. I'm sorry, no, correction. They beat the Bills early. My bad.
Right, yes.
They beat they lost to the Bengals though, but they seem to be strong against the, 500-ish or, hovering, but they're not holding themselves as against the elite teams. I'm using the Packers and the Raiders as an example there. They didn't show themselves. Like I said, this is why it needs a couple more games. If they go in and they crush the Bears, fine. If they go in and crush the Lions, fine. Although that's probably expected, but fine anyway.
Right.
It's like I said, it's those games where a team has a 600 record or above, is what I'm going to say. Not 500, but if they got a 600 record or above, then it catches my attention right now.
I got you. So I'm looking at their schedule saying they're going to win the next 2. If they don't, then look, I'm just saying I'm watching them now because they have the 3-game win streak and we wrote them off in the beginning of this year. So they win the next 2. They're at 6-3. Then if they can win 1 of the next 3 games between the Chargers, the Bengals, and the Ravens, they're 500. 6-3. They'd be at 7-5. Mm-hmm. With a bunch of winnable games against those teams we were just talking about. Like, who are the Vikings? Who are the Titans? Who are the Chiefs? Who are the Browns? And if you can beat those guys, that's 4 nice games in a row, you probably are going to make the playoffs, win or lose against the Ravens the last game of the season. So they have the ability to win 2, win 1, then get a big streak. Now, a lot of that relies on the Chiefs not turning it on. But if the Chiefs don't turn it on, they got lucky with the Titans. Now maybe they're not the team we thought they were going to be. The Vikings, they lost to the Cowboys team at the game that was there for them to win. The Browns, like you said, who knows what they are? Is Baker Mayfield really ever going to get better? This Chiefs team, they have to prove it. They have to run a gauntlet. I mean, and by beating those teams, they'll be pushing those teams out of it, and so they won't look like they ran the gauntlet. Mm-hmm. But they're playing all those teams that are kind of right above them right now that I think in your mind and mine are the ones going, no, you're not getting into the playoffs because of teams like the Titans, because of teams like probably Kansas City, definitely because of the Ravens. Are you really better than all those questions I agree with you on? So I'm not putting my stamp on them so much as saying this is a team that I'm going, this could be the type of team that's in position to go on that late season run and get you a surprise deep playoff run, possibly Super Bowl victory. They're the first ones to tickle that fancy. That's all.
Fair enough. Okay. Like I said, for me, I think it just needs a little more time before I'm willing to say, yes, they are. And that's the opposite. It needs a little more time before I say the Chiefs aren't. I just, like I said, I'm just not sold out on them yet. They got the win there. Great, fine, but not yet for me. I think I beat that horse dead on the ground.
Yes, and you and I are definitely on opposite sides of the Chiefs thing. Where I'm like that horse is, that's going to be rough for them. I think the reason I mostly think it's rough is I think the Chargers are really good. I think the Raiders are really good, and they have to play them a couple more times. And then where are they going to land? They have that first place schedule from last year. So sorry, I think I might try to kill a fly.
That's
but
I
can
drop something over here if you want. So.
Yeah, so it's gonna. Look, the Chiefs' schedule is not easy. They got the Packers, they got the Raiders, they got the Cowboys before they get to breathe against the Broncos. Back to the Raiders, then the Chargers. Like that's 5 out of the 6 next games are very tough games on paper. Like we don't know who all these teams really are and aren't, especially the Raiders. But that's a lot of wins they're facing, even with the Broncos at 4-4. Although I did hear somebody suggest today that the Broncos should trade Steady Teddy back to New Orleans. It's a win-win, but we'll see if that happens.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, have the Saints actually made a decision what they're going to do yet, or they're going to go back?
The Saints have made no official decision. Nobody knows if they've talked to Cam. There's been some discussion about Phillip Rivers. He said that's a team he would consider coming out of retirement for. But the Saints haven't necessarily said they're interested in him. I mean, Steady Teddy's a great fit. I mean, if I'm New Orleans, the reason you didn't sign Steady Teddy before is because he wanted starter money and you was going to be your backup. But now he's going to be your starter. And you didn't sign a crazy expensive contract for a starter. The math has completely flipped. Oh, I can get that guy at that salary for the starter, knows the offense, ran it well. And boy, if you recall, the way he made Michael Thomas shine, that might speed up Thomas coming back. So,
well, it'll be interesting to end up seeing what happens there. But yeah, a lot of injuries this weekend and really kind of depressing, if you don't mind me saying.
No, there's always 1 or 2 weekends in the NFL where a bunch of guys go down and your whole picture of what was going on changes. And this was one of them. So,
yeah,
those teams that didn't have those big injuries, they're breathing.
Yep. But again, the Jameis Winston one paves the way to make it easier for Tampa to get back into the postseason and probably win the division in the process.
Yeah.
But it remains to be seen. All right. So we're about halfway through at this point. As always, you can find us on Instagram and also on Facebook at Spanglish World Sports Den and over on Twitter at SSW Sports Den. This is, like I said, the Sports Den on Zingo TV, channel 249, 250. Moving over at this point from football, there is another major sport that's happening in the U.S. right now, although I question its popularity by comparison. But tonight, we got World Series Game 6. Credit where it's due. The Houston Astros won Game 5, even though they were down 4-0, won it 9-5, and now are playing to basically make a Game 7 out of this. The tailor-made cliche of we're taking this one game at a time really does apply here, because when you're down 3-1 and you have a game on the road, in an elimination game, you just play. Your next goal is to just play at your home turf again, which is exactly what they did the other night. Coming back now, they're starting Garcia, who has not a great ERA right now. This postseason, he has a 7.62 ERA and a 1.69 WHIP. So he's starting additionally on short rest, and that's going to make it very interesting because what has to happen is the Braves need to capitalize early and take that crowd immediately out of that. And unlike the other day, be able to hold that lead, which is something they were not able to do. Thoughts?
So, I mean, to me, this is they don't even have to capitalize early. They just can't get scored upon early. The games that the Braves have won have been close and low scoring. And I think the Braves know that. So the Braves know if they can keep that offense in check, their offense should do enough. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like the Braves are going to be focused on just defense. Mm-hmm. We'll score our runs when we score our runs. But we've got to make sure this game is within reach at any given time. 2-3 runs is all we're going to need, or all that we want to have to need, and not let it get out of hand. Mm-hmm. They have a nice opportunity with a pitcher who has a higher ERA and is pitching on short notice. So if they can get those 3 or 4 runs early, they can feel pretty confident that they can hold on and win the game, even though it didn't work out for them last game.
Well, technically, actually, I think it was.
It was last week. Thank you. That's right. Yeah. So,
I was going to say by European standards, Sunday is the beginning of the week here in the U.S., but I always preferred Sunday at the end of the week myself.
Yes. So there we go. I think that we have that opportunity if you're the Braves to feel find a way to depressurize it for yourself. Take the pressure off your backs, keep you from squeezing too tight, and just know we're going to get our 3 runs, and they're going to come when they're going to come. And as long as we can keep this defensively, keep this game in check, we can beat these guys 3-2 again, 2-1. Keep it down in that area, and that's our zone, and that's how they can't stop us from getting the 3 runs we need. They will come in even via picket fence and not crooked numbers.
But what this comes down to is this is an unbridled must-win for Atlanta too, because you do not want to go Game 7. You do not want to give Houston the belief that they can win, because that is a strong crowd. That is a unified team. They have embraced their villainy, so to speak, and you don't want to have a team like that get to believe in. I saw this 17 years ago when the Yankees lost, 4 straight again, in 2004. I saw what that momentum does when a team that's so far behind starts to believe they can come back. And look what happened there. I can see the same kind of thing happening here, where if Houston gets ahead early, they win the series. I'm not just talking Game 6. I'm talking the whole thing. If they get out to like a 6-1, 6-2 lead and by the 4th inning, I think they're going to have enough drive and enough excitement in there to actually have the momentum to win Game 7 as well.
They say in baseball, momentum is your next day's starting pitcher. So I don't know if I fully am buying that, but I do agree that if Houston gets up 6-1, 6-2 for today, that will deflate Atlanta. I feel like Atlanta feels like they can score 3 or 4 runs. They win in with 6. Like 6 is a pretty magic number to me. I don't care if it's 6-5. I feel like 6 is the number that if Houston scores, they win. I feel like Atlanta probably feels that way also. Their bats are they're not asleep, but they're not alive either. They're just, all right, we can score a few runs. We're not going to get shut out. We're not piling on the runs. So I think that I agree with you. 6-1 is definitely a game where I feel like Atlanta packs up its tents tonight. We have tomorrow. And you can't do that because you have to force Houston to use as many pitchers as they can tonight, because Houston will use every arm they have and then figure out tomorrow when it comes. And that's what you have to do in a Game 6 is you don't have to win it. You have to destroy the bullpen for a Game 7.
Yeah, and JD's like, Atlanta's done if they lose tonight. 0 chance in Game 7 with Atlanta Sports Ghost. Gave me a 3-1 lead in NLCS last year. That's right, to the Dodgers. 28-3 when you're talking about the Falcons and the University of Georgia choke job in 2018. So, yeah, they've got a little bit of that Mets mojo where you start to actually just believe Giants mojo, where you just start to automatically believe you're going to fail as soon as something negative starts to happen.
Yes.
I'm still pulling for Atlanta, but it wouldn't surprise me at least if Houston won this thing. I said that from the beginning. I would like this, like I said, I'd like Houston doesn't deserve it, I think, as much. And forget the trash can part of it. Atlanta had not had a World Series win of any sort, even winning a game in 25 years. They won the first 2 games against the Yankees in 96, lost the next 4, and then lost the next 4 after that in 99, and hadn't been back since. So this is the first time that they actually won a World Series game in 25 years.
Yeah, I'm buying to who deserves it. The towns don't deserve it. The players aren't the same players. Look, Atlanta. Here's what I'll tell. Here's why I will say Atlanta doesn't deserve it. Did you see the exciting run they had last year in the NBA playoffs? Do they not have the most exciting basketball player in the NBA right now in Trae Young? Guy causes all sorts of anger in everybody. The best villain, crazy. They don't deserve it. They had a great run last year. They got 2 rounds beyond what anybody thought they were going to do. And so, they got their sports win for the year.
But expectations.
I'm not saying. I just, in general, it's just who deserves it. The guys who played best for the 7 games deserve it. The town is the town.
Well, maybe it's also me just being a little, pissy over 2017, but not as much as I used to be. I'm feeling better about it. I'm making progress. I'm growing as a person. But it's Houston's going to be tough tonight. I really think so.
Oh, I agree. I mean, it's going to be a hard game for Atlanta. They are going to have to I do also feel a little that they do have to win. It is because it is a pressure-filled situation to be up 3-1 and then be tied 3-3.
Mm-hmm.
Like that for the players is like, why haven't we gotten this done yet? What's going on? Why can't we close the deal? So I do feel there's definitely some of that for sure.
Well, staying in division for a second right now for the NL East, the Mets once again are in need of a new GM. The baseball equivalent of the defense against the dark arts position, that if you know the Harry Potter reference, you'll get a kick out of that. The ever-changing position that is, in this case, the GM. I know JD is a fan of the Mets there, so he may have some input there. But after the DWI that had happened with the GM 2 months ago, he's out. There's a lot of free agents right there. There's a lot of money that has to go back into something here. Stroman's basically going to test the open market this year. Noah Syndergaard, although he's been injured. Jerry's Familia, who knows what's going to happen there. Conforto as well. There's a lot of guys that they have to decide if they want to be able to keep them. So in your case right now, given what Syndergaard has brought to the table the last 4 or 5 years, what would you consider as an offer if you even gave him one? He's been injured a lot.
He's been injured a lot, and he wasn't able to come back this year. I think I'd still give him a 4-year deal at about the 10th highest pitcher salary in the league. I still think he's going to be that's what he's going to demand. So I think if you cut it to 4 years, you're probably saving yourself a little bit. He might be looking for more than 4 years, but about the 10th highest paid pitcher, whatever that number is where I'd put him.
Because in this case, looking at his numbers right now, the man has had 2 starts literally since the 2019 season. He had 2 starts. He had 2 starts in 2021. He went a combined 2 innings, gave up 2 runs, 1 home run, 3 hits, and frankly, like a 1.5 WHIP. So he did not really do well in the 2 starts that he had. That's going to cause a lot of teams to be afraid of him. I don't think A, he'll command a 4-year salary, and B, I don't think he'll get top 10 money. I think a lot of players might actually do a 1-year, maybe $10 million deal.
There's a whole nother thing, and I'm going to rescind my offer. I don't know if there's going to be a season. I don't know what the salary rules are going to be.
Let's roll in that direction for a second. We haven't talked about the potentiality of a strike, but maybe we should.
As far as I've seen reported, it's happening. And then we're going to get the BS argument. And I think this is the argument that you, in your line of work, can really connect to more than me. The millionaires versus billionaires. First of all, it's not a bunch of millionaires. There's some really, really rich dudes and some guys who are lucky if after the debt it cost them to try to make it through the minor leagues, end up earning $1 million in their entire career. It's a very select group of uber rich guys and so even smaller select group of super uber rich guys and a bunch of dudes who are kind of working class when you take how much they're going to earn and then to take it over their lifetime. Yeah. And I know you can relate to that because you're not making Tom Cruise money because if you are, you're holding out on me. I want some drinks, but yeah, it's going to be ugly.
By the way, is that a cocktail reference there?
What is what a cocktail?
Tom Cruise and drinks. So.
No, it was not. It's not a cocktail reference. It's a Top Gun reference. But so it's like I think it's gonna be rough, and I think that as you have pointed out 1,000 times in the 1 year since we've been doing the show together, which by the way is basically my 1 year anniversary. Thank you, Scott.
Happy anniversary to you.
Baseball's not making the numbers it used to make. So even though I'm sure the pure revenue numbers are going up, the dollars per game of baseball relative to the dollars they were making earlier is going down. So the owners are going to want either some concessions, or this is when the league and the players have got to finally come together and discuss how can we change this game to really boost revenue. And so there's going to be a lot in this offseason because I think the owners who are in it for the really long term, like this is like what these guys do for their livelihood forever. are looking at it a lot different than the players, especially the guys who aren't that upper echelon players. Those guys who just got their vote this year and like, I got 1, maybe 2 more years of playing baseball based on what I see. I'm the 25th man on the bench, and they're just sending me down and back and down and back. They're all going to have opinions. So whatever's going to happen is going to be tight, and it's going to be, how are they going to promote this game? It's got to be involved. Like our production said, NBA, CBA. But the NBA is different in that biggest thing about the NBA is the best player not to make the playoffs is usually because he's in his first or second year.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mike Trout is going to go his entire career being the best player in the game for half of it and never make the playoffs. Ohtani, possibly the same thing.
Shame. Absolute shame.
Yeah. And I think it's a problem for baseball. It's still like the only regional sport. I don't even follow hockey, and yet I know more about what's happening in hockey on a national basis than I do about baseball. Because go on.
No, finish that thought.
Yeah, because somehow baseball still keeps itself regional. That's a huge mistake. It's a huge mistake. They got to make their game national. They got to get the best players in the playoffs. So my eyes are drawn to the playoffs. I don't care. You put 20 teams in, shorten the season. Just get my best teams in the playoffs. Give me a chance to be like, ooh, that's what Mike Trout does. Ooh, that's what Ohtani does. The shortstop, oh my goodness, all the hype was about on Padres, whose name is totally escaping me. He didn't make the playoffs either.
Yeah. But here's the thing, and this is where I'm curious right now. We've been through labor strikes before, most notably 94, 95. In this case here, when that happened, baseball was still pulling 30 million viewers for a World Series game. They were really racking in the numbers. Now they're pulling in 8 to 12. They almost lost to regular season college football on Saturday night. They were 2 million. They were only 2 million above Ohio State, Penn State. That says a lot about, like I said, we've had this conversation, ad nauseum. But if they go on strike, and let's imagine worst case scenario, they go on strike and there is no 2022 season. What does that do for baseball long term? Because one year now is like 5 years back 30 years ago, because there's so many different options out there. Was this one of those things where basketball suddenly launches in popularity, hockey, soccer, F1, everything else, because there's a vacuum that's now formed?
Esports. You don't think esports are ready if there's no baseball to jump in?
Dude, they're already nationally televised as it is. Esports,
right. MMA, why is MMA still making themselves pay-per-view at 10 p.m. at night on the East Coast? There's so many, because they do have fights every weekend now in MMA. So there's so many sports that I think if you are the commissioner of that league, whatever that league is, you are looking for baseball to be on strike. And hello,
you were sitting there being like,
coach.
Please
put me in, coach. I'm ready to get your commercial dollars.
Thank you, John Fogerty, 1985. Solo.
Yes. Yeah. So and like I said, so JD commented, and I'm sorry folks can't see the comments from him, but this could be a nuclear winter because the players won't back down. Because the players, and God bless them, they are looking season to season because they don't know how long their career is going to last. The owners, they, on the other hand, are looking at this as a 30, 40, 50-year business. That alone puts them at odds that are going to be hard to figure out how to bring together. So this is I think the worst communications between any leagues, and I think it's going to show this winter. And like you just said, and got me, John Fogerty, somebody else is looking for that chance to be,
And it's like I said, there's going to be a vacuum that's going to be formed somewhere in there. And I don't know what it's going to end up being. It might not even be sports at all. It might be whatever, like the next Squid Game is. Apparently Tiger King season 2 is coming out in a week or two, because the world needed that. But I like I said, you don't know. But this is going to be worse. I think personally, this will be about 10 times worse than 94, 95, because there's so many different options that are available worldwide. I mean, the internet was barely in its infancy back then. AOL was an unknown name back then. So you didn't have what you have now. And this is It will only be their fault. Both sides being unwilling to find a deal for the benefit of society. And that's a union's job. It's an owner's job. I get that, but it's the same kind of thing that happens, I think, in politics. Where you got this side, and it's like we're not giving this up. We're not giving this up, and this is all that ever happens. And then who wins? No one. And that's what's going to happen with baseball, where I think it's already the third most popular sport to begin with, but I think it could drop to fifth, even sixth. I really do, especially if they're out for a year, because there will not be any steroids to bring them back this time.
No, and I think you're underselling how poorly they did against college football, because we had
maybe I didn't continue with that, but the fact that that World Series on a weekend only had 2 million more viewers than regular season college football, granted Division I, still,
than a single regular season college football. Remember, when you pulled the next highest college football rating game, they almost made up the difference. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you pull up the whole slate, what that's going to be. I know I go in during the day on a Saturday in college football, and there's like 7-8 games. So I don't know at night if it's still that many. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's issues that they have to figure out up and down the line, because if college football had combined into one, they were done. Look, golf is trying to figure out what's happening to them without Tiger Woods.
Golf is pulling phenomenal ratings too.
Yeah, and it's
demographic. But PGA is rocking the ratings right now.
Yeah. So now I'll be on during this, and it's on during the summer. Like, let me tell you, I know April, June, July, it's there. It's competing head to head. Now that they figure out a way to have tournaments that people want to watch on Tuesday, like, people are going to find ways. And like, I know you brought up Tiger King, but that, like, a television show is tough because it's got a brief run, and then there's this off, like, and you can forget about it, and then you get to read. But a sport is a lot different.
Okay, I would want to pull something. I just pulled it up right here. The Masters back in June pulled for CBS. You want to take a guess of how much that final round pulled on the ratings?
14.
No, 9.4.
Okay.
But that's still, like I said, that was better than the World Series. And that's golf. I heard the analogy that golf is nothing more than ugly, men in ugly pants walking. And it's suddenly become, like I said, it's very popular.
It's actually on its way down, by the way, compared to when Tiger was playing.
But when you think about, what kind of weird multiverse are we now in, where golf is more popular than baseball? And I'm not talking popular. I'm talking crushingly popular.
I want to put one more thing into this negotiation that has to be on the owner's mind, maybe even on the union's mind. I'm going to say two more things. Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Football is a much more dangerous sport with a much shorter time frame of making money. But if you're going to be a quarterback, and Russell Wilson wasn't even a first-round quarterback, you're going to get drafted and make money year one and not have to go through the dregs of being at the bottom of the league in AAA, single A, and going into debt. That money now makes up for the money when you're playing 20, 30 years down the line that you're not going to have in football because your career is going to be over. They need to get better athletes in there and get guys away from the other sports. Like, their talent pool, the guy, can you imagine if, like, Zion Williamson had learned to hit a baseball? And you could bring that action and interest to the game. Like, we're seeing it with Ohtani. What he can do, get me 4 or 5 more guys who just draw me into the game and then make the playoffs so I'm watching the playoffs. Baseball's got to figure that out. They got to do a better job of losing guys to a sport where they're literally having trouble getting people to play because it makes you brain dead. And guys are like, I'll still do that because they're going to pay me now.
I mean, here's the thing. You got 2 kids here. Of the 4, we'll say 5 major sports, we'll include soccer in there. If you, as a parent, had an 18-year-old kid and they were suddenly drafted into some sport somewhere, what would you want it to be? On a professional level.
On a professional level, basketball. Not even close.
That's what I would have figured you would have said, because 18, 19, 20 years old, you can automatically start making money. it's stress on the knees, but it's not like physical like football is. It's not like, it's not like hockey or anything like that. But you can make some serious bank, like I said, as a teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
play,
you start on.
look at LeBron.
Yeah. If you're the was it 64th pick, you still sign a decent contract. You might not make it, but if you make it, and if you don't make it, you know soon enough that you can decide. Whereas baseball, you're like, you're the number one pick. You still have to fight for 5 years sometimes. In the NBA, you're the number one pick. You are done. You're set. You're done. Wiggins is still playing. Not Wiggins isn't the one I was thinking of. The guy who was picked first before Wiggins, who was horrific. He still made his millions of dollars. And now, it wasn't for me. And he walked away without being beaten up. Mm-hmm. But you play now, you get paid now. Baseball, you don't get paid now.
You ride buses, you sleep in crummy hotels, and you eat ramen noodles for 5 years.
Yeah,
you pay your dues at that point. And also, I was going to say, to some degree, with the NBA season, it's shorter, and also it's indoors.
Yeah. Now, if I have my complete druthers, by the way, the sport I want my child to play is golf.
Okay. I probably could have included golf because it's borderline. I would consider that top 5, especially with the numbers it's pulling versus soccer. But okay, fair. And like I said, that's pretty mainstream now too. But suffice it to say, the answer was not going to be baseball or football.
Right. Baseball, it takes too long, and football, you get too beat up.
Yeah.
And you're losing players to football. You shouldn't be losing players to football. I love football, watching football. It's my favorite sport to watch. But you should not be losing the athletes to football. You should be. That's why LeBron James isn't playing tight end, because he didn't want to. Right? He could have maybe. He didn't want to. He wanted to play basketball and make money now.
And yet, ironically enough, John Elway was drafted by the Yankees and chose football.
Yes.
So this is going to kill me to say this, but we got to wrap this up. Dude, I could have run with this for another hour. I could have gone all night. I think, like I said, I would have loved to be able to continue this. I'm really, really, really disappointed that we can't. But we got about 2 minutes left. Do you have any final thoughts?
I'm going to go with I'm going to take Houston to win the next 2. Just my first World Series prediction. I know you guys. No, I'm going to have Houston win tonight and Atlanta win in 7. When you guys were all saying Houston 6. I was going to say Atlanta in 5. I didn't have the guts because I wanted to mess with you guys.
It's good that you held them out. Your mouth.
But now I'm going to take Atlanta in 7. I'm going to have them do the impossible, lose today, heartbreak kids, and come back and win in Houston. Just because that would be the best story we could have. So let's go for the best story. Well, that's how I'll sign off with.
I would actually agree with you, but just for the sake of being different, I'll say Atlanta wins tonight, just to be different here. Now, of course, if Houston wins, we'll both look like idiots. Me more than you, though. But, all right, so we'll see what happens. Time will tell, basically, if we're smart or we're stupid here. We got to wrap this up, like I said. As always, you can find us on Twitter at SSW Sports Den and also on Instagram and on Facebook at Spanglish World Sports Den. This is a Zingo TV production. Thank you, as always, to Eduardo and the good folks at Spanglish World Networks and Spanglish Sports World. Zingo TV is available throughout the globe. If you have a television set that is anywhere in the last 5 years, this is available to download. It is free of charge. Rate, leave a comment. Good, bad. I want to hear it all. So, as for myself, like I said, I'm Scott Churchson, Mr. Obie Spencer. Mr. JD Walker was also writing in from the sidelines. I appreciate you, dude. You're awesome. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Have a great night and be awesome.